Hello, and welcome to Best of Five, your weekly FGC talk show presented by a bunch of dudes that like to hang out and talk about fighting games and a little bit of help from our friends in the control room. You don't know it, but there's a guy over there, Josh. He's helping us with this. And as always,
Please leave me the fuck out of it.
I'm your host, Evan Salinas. With me is Michael Danke Schiller, and joining us as they do every week is Steve Ace King Offsuit Jurek and John Velociraptor Guerrero. Welcome, gentlemen.
That was the worst salute ever. I apologize for that.
We'll do it again, dog. We got time.
There.
That was a little better.
That was acceptable.
Guys, we have a stack show tonight. Chat, if you're watching, it's probably because you want to hear from Steve, of course. But there's also another Steve on the show tonight. He's Steve Sajam Lion, not to be confused with Lions. Hold the S. And Rick the Hadou Tire. I think I'm pronouncing that right. And we're really excited to talk to them about, of course, Combo Breaker, E-League, Injustice, tournament seeding, pools.
We're excited about at least a few of this.
There's a bunch of stuff that we're going to talk about, but you're right.
Now,
the
this
excitement
year we
level.
Get Rick before Combo Breaker.
Last year we had him right
talk about
after.
him right afterwards. So I'm hoping that we'll get to hear some insight on, the many goings on in this.
And if I'm not mistaken, he's actually at the venue setting up.
I'm sure he is.
And he's popping into a hotel room just to be on this show for us and our lovely audience. But why don't we get it going, guys? Is it time for a recap, Steve?
I think it is.
All right, well, let's hit it.
There's a whole lot to recap. 4 events this weekend, 1 in each of the 4 regions. Let's start it out in Europe, in Germany with the FFM Rumble. That one was won by Phenom, a guy who is riding some momentum on his way to the E-League final. He got another win under his belt. He beat Problem X in the final, or in the grand final, excuse me. Mr. Crimson and Big Bird. Big Bird is putting in some work out there in Europe. He just got sponsored by Nasser, and he's able to go to more events now, and he's getting pretty close to a win. So it's good to see him doing it. There you see the rest of the top 8 on your screen. Luffy and CCL, guys who were in Capcom Cup last year, they failed to make top 16 this time around. Then let's take it over to Latin America for the second online event in that area. This one was only open to South American players as opposed to the Central American players who were in last week's event. And you see some pretty familiar names at the top. Rolinho, once again getting the win over Didi Makov in the grand final. A lot of Brazilian flags. Even if the sponsors weren't there, you'd see nothing but Brazilian flags. All Brazilian top 8. They took 12 of the top 16 spots. Guys from Chile like Chancho Kai and Mysterio, guys who were in the running last year. You didn't see them do well this weekend, but see how that goes the rest of the season. Then we went to Saigon Cup, the Asian event this week. And guess what? Bon Chan picks up another win. It's his 3rd in 3 weeks. He won the Coliseum in Europe. He won Battle Arena Melbourne. Gets another win over Xiaobao in the grand final. This man is absolutely on a tear. He got hot right at the end of Street Fighter 4, and right now he's running incredibly well. And then the final event of the weekend was Toryukin 6 out in Toronto, and that was won by a guy who we've seen on these rankings, but we haven't seen him right at the top. Justin Wong finally getting his first win of the season.
I have a question for you, Steve, before you go any further. Is Shine
I refuse
sponsored
to answer.
by Justin?
Shine for this event was sponsored by
So
Justin.
I'm just looking at this beautiful graphic that you made for Best of 5 broadcast here, and that little image of Justin. I just wanted to call that out. Anyway, proceed.
Yeah, they actually met up in losers finals. Justin obviously took that and then reset the bracket over Flash to get his first win of the season. He had 7 wins last year, so off to a slower start, but starting to put it together again. K-Brad getting top 4 again. And then
he played
you see,
only Karen, by the way.
yes, that was a pretty big development, stepping away from Cammy. So maybe it gives him a little more versatility going forward.
Yeah, real versatile. Blonde lady.
Hey, he likes some blondes. You, you throw in Trish in there, and he's good to go. He's got his Marvel team.
Although I think he said the next character he was going to bring out was Zangief.
Not a blonde girl. Not a
Mm-mm.
blonde girl. I don't buy it.
He hangs out with Mika. That's a blonde girl. Anyway,
Yeah.
we ready for the overall?
Yeah, let's take a look at it. You see Punk still with his grip on the first place spot, but it's looking kind of tight. Bonchan within striking distance now,
Wow.
over 900 points. You see the rest of the top 10 Phenoms up there as well with his win, and Verloren still in very strong position.
Can we talk really quick about how poetic it is that it's Bonchan and Punk, two players that like nobody really expected for this year. Punk came out of nowhere, and Bonchan was on something of a cold streak since the beginning of Street Fighter V, and now Punk is like argued to be the best player in the world, and he's a huge, maybe the biggest fan of Bonchan, and it's like his idol is now hot on his heels, and those two are gonna meet up. If they keep playing the way they are, they're gonna meet up in an event sooner rather than later. That's so exciting to me.
Yeah.
What's really interesting to me is the entire Red Bull team. I mean, you look at last year, Luffy made Capcom Cup, but he wasn't quite as dominant as we've seen in the past. Bonchan struggled. Snake Eyes struggled. Now, all of a sudden, all three of those guys are starting to get hot at the right time. Snake Eyes has been turning in much better performances this year. Obviously, Bonchan's hot. Luffy won a couple weeks ago, so to see that team stick with those players despite the struggles they had, they're starting to get rewarded for it now.
I'd agree on that one. I was watching Toryukin this weekend for that Injustice action. I know you were probably watching that, right?
Totally.
They had, if I'm not mistaken, they're brothers, right? Honeybee and Biohazard are brothers.
Yes, they are indeed brothers.
And they got first and second. There was a questionable drops there in that last round.
Come on, man.
But, it looked like they were putting on a show at least. It looked good.
Well, the character variety has already gotten a lot better than people were talking about at first. I mean, we'll see what comes to fruition at Combo Breaker. I always have that in my head. At Combo Breaker. But at least at Toryukin and the online events we've seen, it has not only been Deadshot, it has not only been Black Adam. Many, many characters have so far shown to be pretty competitive.
Mm-hmm. What were you guys watching this weekend? I know Steve was watching everything. What were you guys most excited about this weekend?
I actually checked out the Latin American online Capcom Pro Tour event. I'm still excited to see how the online events on the Pro Tour are going to evolve and become more, more valid in the community's eyes. They obviously are not the same thing as majors, but we're seeing players that you probably never would have seen in most all of the Pro Tour events getting a chance. And yes, it was Brolino that won it all, but some new representation. And like you said, all Brazil in top 8. I'm hoping to see some Nicaragua. I don't even know if there are any Nicaraguan players. That's my heritage, though. So I was looking for that kind of stuff. But yeah, that was an exciting tournament.
Going back to all these results, though, I'm loving seeing these names. You're seeing a lot of familiar names on here. Are you surprised at any of the names you guys saw on the rankings or in these events?
Well, you saw Cola123, now known as Zhao Bao, get second with Vega, and he had recently, lost in pools at another tournament, so he's obviously making that work a lot better. I believe one of the guys who got fifth in Canada Cup was also playing Vega, so and Flash played some Vega,
so now he's good
getting
again?
Second. So now he's good again. He's the best character in the game. But I think a lot of people are kind of exploring him again, Flash included, because the patch is coming out that buffs him a good deal. So, I mean, if people are able to get some results right now, maybe you'll see more from the future. I really think that, and maybe this is totally off base, but I think that, Bonchan gave people a lot of hope.
Hey, we're back. Hey guys, how you doing? I don't know if John and Steve can see us, but I think the stream can see
Not
us.
yet.
So type 1 if you can see Danke and I. Sorry, but so that entire bit was in the dark. It was poetic. We did that on purpose, guys, because of the subject matter of what Danke was discussing. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. You think it's going to be a detriment to anybody?
I think it's a big deal. I mean, yet again, getting a little more technical. Look at characters like Ibuki. When Ibuki finishes her combo with her Raida hit grab, she dashes up to you and she's exactly +2. And this is the magic number. If you're +2, you can meaty throw their jab, or you can do a meaty strong to stop them from mashing, stuff like that. This is a really good scenario. But if you jump back OS Tech there, Ibuki has to like manually delay a low to catch you. It's very, very difficult. Without that, the shimmy versus throw mix up there is super, super real, especially because their overhead dodges throws. And I think characters like Ibuki, characters like Cammy, who have really good, really easy to set up throw mix-ups, are going to be much stronger after this patch.
So if you're a top level guy, you want to win Evo, how are you training?
You don't know. That's what I'm saying. That's the problem. You don't know anymore. There's a point where I thought, I should train without jump back teching because it's going to be gone by combo breaker, but now it's not. We'll see, though. I mean, hopefully they'll get it done sooner rather than
But you've been focusing on Injustice anyway, so I mean, what's the big deal?
every minute of every day.
Supergirl's on there,
She's beautiful.
She's a cutie. Although I think I have my new top tier cuties on Injustice. We can talk about that later, though. All right, moving right along, guys. There's a couple of topics that we have before we get to our first guest. There was the Salt at Teryukin. There's Deadshot, which didn't actually have... Well, I guess he did have something to do with the Salt.
Yes.
We have E-League predictions. And then we got a block grab, of course. What are we hitting first, guys? I'm looking at this Teryukin here, though.
Well, we got two guests, so I say we hurry it along to that.
How about that? Let's first take a nice look at this Teryukin Salt. And I want you guys to tell me what you guys would do in this scenario. I think we're seeing that, right? Look at this. All right.
They can't see it.
This is Dr. Stabs versus Red Throws. Boom! Did you see that thing fly? Let's play it in reverse. It's going to come back to his hand like a Jedi. All right, check this out. Pissed, chunks it, flies across the room, hits a table. I was seeing guys like Keats saying, immediately banned. You're not coming to my tournament if you're throwing something. You could hurt yourself. You could hurt somebody else. You could damage equipment. You could damage goods that are being sold. Pardon me.
I mean, that could have been pretty bad. He chucked that pretty hard. It looked like, I mean, that would if that hit someone in the face, that would have hurt.
Let alone the fact that you're an adult and there's no need to react in that fashion.
Well,
Gentlemen.
there's a huge entertainment factor that comes in for all of us watching. We saw that and we're like, yep, there's an Event Hubs post. Easy, it's low-hanging fruit. Everyone's going to want to hear about this. Everyone's going to want, to get on their TMZ tabloid side and appreciate this. And, oh, yeah, I want to see the guy get mad. We love that, of course, as entertainment. But when you think about it from the people at the tournament, the people that may or may not be, in harm's way if someone's going to chuck a controller, it's very much not fun. And when you have someone there that gets that mad, I've been there. In our local scene, one dude just got up one day and just chucked his phone at the wall and smashed it in like a million pieces. And everyone kind of like, yeah, it's like, okay, fun story. But in the moment, it's very unsettling. And everyone's like, what do we do? Is he going too far? Is he going to continue to get pissed off? It makes... Yeah, no, and it makes for a not very good atmosphere. So yes, while it might be entertaining to see, and sure, like people will talk about it and clip it and whatnot, I do agree with Keats in that, like, yeah, you don't tolerate that. You do something like that in pro sports, you get fined heavily, or you get suspended or whatever. And I think we should take a similar course of action in the fighting game community. We can't let that kind of stuff just be commonplace because people get mad, and if they know that they can do that, we're going to see it even more.
I think there's a difference in those scenarios. Something like this, where it's done in the instant moment, I'm more willing to let that slide. We've all had that frustration of having a game in our hands and losing it, and just losing control for that split second, that very, very tiny second. If it happens and it's over, I'm not going to be I'm not okay with it, but I'm not going to condemn him for it. If it's something he does one time, just out of sheer frustration. If it's a repeated incident, then yes, I would.
Steve, I know you
But-
can't see this clip that we're playing here, but do you recall Rico Suave versus Sanford Kelly?
Oh my
Mentos.
God,
This
the
was the
Mentos
ultimate,
moment.
the Mentos moment. We got to watch it the whole way through
The
here.
fresh maker.
This one's crazy to me because Sanford looks like almost calm for a solid 30 seconds.
Wait for it. He's not. If you haven't seen this,
Because normally they lose and they chuck it right there. You know, it's like, I got
Here it
hit.
goes.
But Sanford, like, debated chucking the stick.
my favorite is not the Mentos reaction, although we'll stop at the Mentos moment here. Just my favorite moment is the reaction when he sees he's got a look on his face like, oh my goodness, did that just happen? Here, check this out. Here it comes. Look. Oh my.
I think so. So maybe we should let Sanford be salty and destroy sticks, but not extend that to everybody else. Sanford's a special case. He can chuck as many sticks as he wants.
Guys, I'm taking us to the block grab because today's block grab is acceptable ways of showing salt. Blocker grab, acceptable ways of showing salt. First, chucking a controller. Blocker grab, Danke, hit me with it.
Well, you know, I mean, it seems to have done decently for getting you 15 minutes of fame or something like that.
Hey,
We
Alon,
currently have a
you're in the
face
shot, buddy.
in the screen.
It's that one.
However, I do not think this is acceptable. As I said, you know, the idea that he didn't mean to get mad is all fine and good, but the fact of the matter is that that controller could have hit someone and caused damage. It could have broken a screen, or as I said, it could have done worse and hit someone in the eye, something like that. I know I sound like a mom, but this one's
You do kind of sound like mom.
pretty. If you hit your controller against the thing like this, you know, if you hit it on the table,
or on yourself.
that's totally different than throwing it. I think if you've thrown it, you've crossed a threshold
Yeah.
that is no longer acceptable, and I would probably ban you from my tournament.
Chuck plasma, not controllers. Steve, blocker grab, throwing a controller.
Look, it's not something I would do because my arcade stick is my weapon, and I respect my weapon.
That it kind of looked
But
like he was using it as a weapon.
You know what? I have to give him props on the form. That was just, you know, because if I were to do it, I would throw it, and it would just kind of sputter 6 inches away. That man, the arc that he got, the power behind the shot, that was extraordinary. But for me, I can't disrespect my weapon. I got to block.
I think he was meter burning the controller Chuck. John, what do you got, bud?
Block for controller Chuck.
There we go. All right, moving on. Send a salty message via PSN or Xbox Live.
Well, a few of our greatest players right now in fighting games are legendary salty
Punk?
messengers. We have Punk. We have Terry Bogard, who's a top Marvel player. I mean, he still does it. We have LTG.
Top player?
So at this point, it seems like a decent way to get your name out. Now, I honestly,
You're
the problem
grabbing
is,
salty
and so this
message.
is a personal thing, but since they added party chat to Xbox Live and to PSN, no one hears you talk trash anymore, and sending a message is just like too easy to laugh at. If you can't hear the trash talk, it's not good enough.
Dude, but you're CEO
So
headshot
so
420.
voice message I'll grab, that's great, but if you're just sending text, block.
Okay. All right. Steve?
The problem isn't that I dislike the salty message. The problem is so many people are so bad at it. If you're just going to say, you suck, noob, then what's the point? But if you're going to write a paragraph about how the only reason you lost is because you were having sex with 2 girls at the same time, and one of them wanted to hop off of your stick and grab onto your other stick, that's magnifique. So, in theory, I grab.
Yeah, sounds like you do. Going off of that, I'd like to encourage that on our next week's show, we do a segment for Steve where he explains exactly how, a tutorial, if you will, on how to properly send messages of salt. But I will grab this. I think it's a completely appropriate thing. I encourage it. It makes it fun. No one really gets hurt. And yeah, so grab salty messages.
Okay, well, our next one is, and I have let me just pull this out real quick. This is a visual aid, so you know what we're talking about here. Wait, let me resize that. I need you guys to be able to see it appropriately here. This would be scream into a pillow, but a waifu pillow, and we have one that we recommend you use. Waiting on you, Danke. You probably would have said no, but then you saw Daigo, right?
That's what I'm debating. It's like if you have the Daigo Makara, then you've earned the right, I would say, to scream into a pillow. I don't know. Like if you're gonna be salty, there's two good ways to do it, right? There's the in your head totally way, where no one knows you're just salty, and that's like the adult way, right? And then there's the this is hilarious to everyone watching way. That's the other way. This one, I guess, is pretty funny, and it's not painful to anyone other than yourself.
And maybe the pillow.
You're never going to get away with that.
Who knows what happens to those pillows?
I would say that this is most likely a grab.
It's going to grab the Daigo waifu
If you like
pillow.
scream angrily, just like if we're going to boil it down to that, that's pretty hilarious. You're gonna get shit for that for a while.
Steve, would you scream into a pillow that had the visage of one Daigo Umehara on it?
I browse our Kappa. I am legally and contractually obligated to put my hands on Daigo whenever possible. Grab.
John, what you got, buddy? You don't like
With
Daigo,
this-
do you?
Oh, are we going to talk about that? With the stipulation that if you do that at home, you have to bring said pillow to any tournament that you venture to, and you have to do it at the tournament, then it's fine. Otherwise, I don't care. But yes, I will grab it with that stipulation.
I was halfway expecting, John, that you were going to whip out your Daigo body pillow. Seems like something...
Where do you get those? Is that on Amazon? Because I
It
don't
said
have
it
one
was
yet.
commissioned by Mark Man. I don't know if that's like a joke
no,
or
I'm
if that's
certain that's
real.
Makes
true.
sense.
No, that's factual. I mean, it's on the internet. It said it right there in Twins Day, so obviously that's real. Guys, we do have a truncated show today because we have two guests to get to, so we're going to skip over to the E-League Pick'ems. We have done our brackets, and now we're going to go through them.
Fantasy brackets.
Fantasy bracket time, guys. So let's start off. We are going first with Ace King Opsu. Why don't you kick us off, buddy?
Well, here I am so unconfident in my picks because this is so wide open. You can make a case for almost anyone in that field. But I do feel that Fudo, with time to prepare, is a very, very, very dangerous thing, as well as Punk is playing right now. And he is playing phenomenal. I just think Fudo has enough in the tank to get it done and get that big win. I do have Punk in the runner-up spot, and I think PR Balrog is going to make a great run up to third place.
What do you guys think of Steve's picks, his fantasy picks here?
I've picked Fudo like 6 times now to win tournaments, and he never actually wins. So I have stopped. I wanted to pick
He's come
Fudo
close.
again.
This might be his time.
I was thinking that, but I figured that as soon as I stopped, he would do it. So
That's been
I'm
my
playing
figure for
myself.
5 times, so that's why I stopped. But yeah, Fudo's a good. I mean, I can't hate on any of these. Balrog's probably not far enough in the tournament, but
Now, I do also want to call attention to Ace's beautiful graphics again. Your own avatar for yourself is Mr. Clean. Right? Is this how you see yourself? Is that your?
That's my nickname.
Oh, is that right,
That's
Mr.
one of
Clean?
my several nicknames. So
All right. Well, we're
All
going
right,
over
whose picks are
to
next?
we're going to yours, Danke.
oh, we're going to my picks. Well, I was the most boring picker, I think, of the group. I chose probably the 1 seed to win the tournament because he has been winning the tournaments that he has entered. Similarly to Steve's line of thinking, I thought that Xiaohai, with time to prepare, would potentially outperform where he is in the bracket right now. So I have him going all the way to losers semis. However, I think that Punk and Phenom are the 2 best players right now in
Really?
the tournament.
In
And
this
as such,
tournament.
because they're both already in winners, I thought it was fine and it made sense that they'd both make it to grand finals. I think they're the 2 best players in the tournament right now. I think they're the 2 players playing Street Fighter V the hardest. I think a lot of other people in there are super, super talented, super great, all obviously very good at Street Fighter V, but those 2 have based their game plan so hard around it that I think other people still have to catch up to that.
So you think that Punk and Phenom face each other twice, and Punk takes it both times?
Yeah, I think Karen versus Nikali is pretty hard for Nikali still. It's not as bad as Season 1 probably, but it's hard enough to where, given that I think Punk's the best player in the world, and I think the matchup is in Karen's favor, that he'll probably win. If you look at the bracket one more time, Punk's matchups are pretty good throughout. Karen is notably one of the characters that gives Balrog a tougher time. And then, as I said, he could potentially only play Punk or Phenom again to get through the tournament, at which point he's playing what I consider 2 favorable matchups.
Also, shout-outs to the Danke PogChamp face at the top of your pick'ems here. All right, moving on to me. Why not? Guys, I'm not the most scientific when it comes to this. I went with my gut. Fucking Steve put Tony Romo. I'm not a Cowboys fan. And I don't particularly think I look like Tony Romo. But, I have Punk taking it as well. Laugh it up, Steve. I hear you, dude.
The resemblance is uncanny. I'm sorry.
I'm looking up pictures of Tony Romo right now.
I bet you are. All right, speaking of which, Raptor pics. That picture is dead on. Where'd you get that picture of Raptor? Of John? John, you can't tell what it is, can you?
I don't know what it is. No, I have no idea.
Oh, that's the time you commentated Grand Finals at EVO.
Yeah, the time that you and...
Great, cool. Haha.
All right, but speaking of your picks, buddy, there seems to be a theme running through this.
Daigo's winning from losers, huh, Steve?
Oh,
or John?
Ye of little faith, all of you. I know that Daigo hasn't won a tournament since last year. I know that he's getting top 16 at best. I know that he just transitioned to a new character, but it's Daigo, and the dude has pillows that people do questionable things with and sleep with at night.
Well, you would know.
How many other players here? I would know, yes. How many other players here? We got like 2 of you guys. Romo, you're going with Punk. One of you guys thinks Fudo. Stupid, dumb. They've won some tournaments, sure, but it's Daigo we're talking about. And you heard it here first. Daigo from losers, going through Momochi and the rest of the bracket, resetting it in grand finals. He's gonna take it all.
So
that'd be pretty impressive, considering I think Daigo is the newest to his character of anyone in the field, and it's pretty impressive he's made it this far so far.
He's using Guile?
With Guile, and I think this is the first tournament he's really gone all Guile in. He was playing Ryu for season 2 for a while, then he said he was going to switch to Guile, but stuck with Ryu, and then at some point he just went full Guile, and you always should go full Guile.
Don't go half Guile?
Don't go half Guile. Go full Guile, and it worked out. Yeah, because Guile's a character that everyone says is top 2 and top 3, and, very possibly true, one of the strongest characters in the game. But Do has had his results fall off slightly, even with the buffs. But Daigo bringing it back up is pretty nice to see.
I have so much faith in Daigo. They could update the game halfway through E-League Finals, and Guile would get nerfs, and Daigo would still be my pick to win it all.
They may do it.
Right on.
Who knows? They haven't told us when they're going to do it.
If I'm not mistaken, back in ST days, Daigo used to rock Guile.
He played Guile. I think Guile's always been like his sub character. I remember when they had like the Street Fighter AE exhibition between Justin and Daigo. Daigo picked Guile.
He went full Guile?
He's played Guile in ST. He's played Guile probably even in season 1 a little bit just to practice him. He's pretty good with Guile. He is by far the most basic boom-based Guile of any of the Guiles. He's kind of like, if you saw a Ryu player switch to Guile, this is what it would look like.
Huh. Well, that's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
What's the prize, Steve? Is it for closest in the bracket or picking the winner?
Well, let's do this. I've seen a whole bunch of people talking crap about our picks in the chat. So
well, what do they know, chat? Why don't you tell us your picks?
Yeah, let's do this. Right now, go to challenge.com/BOVELeague. I'll put the link in the chat in a second. And you can make your predictions for the top 8 at E-League. The winner, the person who gets the most points, or if there's a tie, I'll have a random draw among all the people who tied for first. But the winner will get a $20 gift card for the platform of their choice, be it Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Nintendo Shop, whatever. challenge.com/BOVELeague.
Yep. I put it in the chat for you, Steve. Now, question. Does it explain that you have to put people into losers?
Yes.
Okay, so everything is there. You should know. You should be able to just follow the instructions and know what to do, or are you going to explain it now?
Yeah, I'll just say I couldn't have predictions open while starting some people in losers. So in order to make it work, you have to have the 4 people in winner's side win their opening match. So Punk, PRL Balrog, Fudo, and Phenom need to be marked as winners in their opening round for the prediction to work. Otherwise, you're going to lose.
And you know what? If Capcom has announced an official patch date by the end of E-League Finals, I will throw in a Steam copy of KOF 14.
Out of your pocket is just
Out of my pocket.
All
Why
right.
not?
I thought you could say something about like a free Hearthstone lesson.
So
maybe.
it's on you, Capcom.
I like how you're rewarding a Capcom thing with a King of Fighters thing.
I love Capcom.
Yeah.
I'm just mad. It's
Okay.
like Urgh.
All right. And Steve will throw in a copy of Injustice for you. No, that's not true. I'm not putting you on the hook for that. Guys,
Better not.
that was our block grab. That was our pick'ems. We do have a question of the day, but I don't think we're going to be able to get to it, guys. We have a guest to get to. So, John, Steve, share some of that on Twitter, would you?
We will.
The question of the day and the answers of the day. John, it's always a pleasure to have you on. If you don't know, John Velociraptor Guerrero writes for eventhubs.com. You should go there and check out his and everybody else's articles that are on there. Posting all kinds of shit all the time. Steve writes for .esports. You can find him at Ace King Offsuit. He writes cool pieces about the FGC for .esports. What I like about that is that it's a it's majority esports centric, and FGC doesn't usually fall on that, but we got our guy in there, spreading the word. So shout
I'm
outs
the
to-
mole.
You're the mole.
And to pimp it one more time, of course, we all used to do this for an entity, but now we do not.
Mhm.
This is just something that we all do out of the goodness of our hearts
Mhm.
every Tuesday.
That's true. That is indeed true. And, of course, coming up this weekend, Steve, before I let you go, I'm sorry. What are we all watching this weekend? What can we watch? There's all kinds of
Holy
stuff, and we're about to
crap.
talk to Rick about it, but before I let you go, hit us with it.
If you're into Street Fighter V, oh man, what a weekend. We've got Combo Breaker Friday through Sunday. That's going to be on Capcom Fighters. You've got the E-League Finals on Friday. That's going to be on TBS and E-League on Twitch. And then Saturday and Sunday, you've got Red Bull Kumite on Red Bull Esports on Twitch as well. So incredible weekend. So much going on. I'm not getting any sleep.
All right, guys. Well, thank you much for that, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you much.
All right. Now, we're going to bring on Rick.
Bring on Rick
The
first.
Hadou.
The Hadou first.
He's coming on. He is the tournament organizer for Combo Breaker.
For Combo Breaker.
Which used
I
to
believe
be
in its
UF
third year.
It used to be the Ultimate Fighting Game Tournament.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say it quite like that, but I think Rick took on the reins of taking over, the Chicago area fighting game major. Before that, it was UFGT. Before that, it was Midwest Championships. And before that, it was UFGT. So
Okay.
there has been some sort of, major fighting game tournament area for a while, but now it is Combo Breaker. In my opinion, I've said this probably like 16 times on the show, the best run event in the FGC. So glad to
And
have
yeah,
him.
that's echoed by a lot of people. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we are now joined by Rick Tyre. Am I pronouncing that
No,
right?
you're definitely not.
You are not.
Damn, how is it?
It's Thyre. Pretend there's a G in the middle.
Dang it. All right. So, Rick, thank you very much for joining us on the show. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, and I'm hoping the internet holds out here as it decided to start thunderstorming the minute you called.
Hey, you know what's funny is we're getting hail out here, so you're in good company. Rick, a lot to talk to you
This is
about,
good.
man.
No wonder.
There's a lot to talk to you about, but why don't we kick it off here? How is the preparation for Combo Breaker coming?
Well, not too shabby. It's Tuesday night. We've already got the power drops down. We've got stages started. We're gonna start rigging tomorrow. Then it's the home stretch.
Now, that's like the
And you get
actual... I'm sorry?
And you get brackets tomorrow.
Oh, that's great. Now, that's the nuts and bolts of it. I was seeing some Twitter beefs. You can maybe call it a beef, maybe not. A couple of weeks ago, people requesting, hey, I'm at E-League. Can you put me in the Saturday pool? That was, if I'm not mistaken, Wolfgrown, you were tweeting, and it was to be transparent and let people know, hey, we're not doing anybody any favors. We are not doing that. How's that working out for you, man?
Honestly, we've been doing that every year. The Chicago Major has been running since UFGT 7. So this is the largest event we've ever run. It has the highest Street Fighter bracket we've ever had. So if we're looking at Street Fighter specifically, I mean, arguably it's working out. I don't care for some of the negativity that comes with it, but that's just the unfortunate side effect.
Now, I'm not going to lie, man. I asked myself, and now I respect you for what you're doing. And I know you've talked about it as one of the best tournaments ever, and it's run, and if you're late for your pool, you get DQ'd, and it's really strict, and that makes for a better tournament. But you have Punk out. He's going to be there, but he's not going to compete. Fudo the same because of E-League, if I'm not mistaken. Who knows about Crone? Why not Give them a Saturday pool.
Well, two reasons. One, if I give them a Saturday pool preferentially, I got to give it to everybody else. And if anybody thinks that only those 4 guys reached out about a Saturday pool, I've had 3 messages about Saturday pools since this show started. I'm not making that up. And the other problem there, too, is if we're going to start looking at esports like it's a profession, sometimes you've got to work somewhere the same night you want to do something else. For as important as E-League is and as cool as E-League is, it is a job for the guys that are there. They're flown in there to compete. They're paid to compete. They have winnings that trump pretty much anything else for the year, I think, other than Capcom Cup. And so that should be their priority, and that is their priority. And that should be Street Fighter's priority for the night as well. I don't think it's fair to then let them in Saturday and not let in everyone else who has a work or general life conflict Friday night.
Yeah.
And on that topic, keep going.
Love watching.
Yeah.
And on that topic, it must have been a bit painful for you at least, as I believe Combo Breaker was the first event to have announced this date, and then, we saw Red Bull Kumite announce the same date, and then we saw E-League announce the same date. How do you feel about those 3 things happening to land on this one weekend?
I mean, I don't think that's great in general. It might wind up an amazing Stream Monster weekend. Like, there's no way around that. You're going to get a 7.5-hour difference for Street Fighter coming from France to what we're doing here at Combo Breaker. You got E-League Friday night happening right after we get done with pools. Like, if what you want to do this weekend is sit at home and watch Street Fighter, this is an amazing weekend. If what you wanted to do is attend Kumite or attend Combo Breaker, you can't do both, and that's unfortunate. And if you're an E-League player that wanted to come compete at Combo Breaker or Kumite, that doesn't work very well, and that's unfortunate. And when we talk about trying to utilize the Capcom Pro Tour and bring the best of the best to one place, now we're in a dicey sadness there too. At the flip side of that coin, though, is 20 plus of the best players in the world are at Kumite. Some of the best players in the world are E-League. Some of the best players in the world are still at Combo Breaker. But we have an amazing opportunity for guys on the come-up to make a statement this weekend. And when we're talking about somebody like Punk had an amazing opportunity to make a come-up last year because of Red Bull Proving Grounds and then actually making that statement at Red Bull Battlegrounds. When you look at something strictly as an invitational, at that time, would you necessarily have paid money to fly Punk out to watch him compete? I don't know if I would have or not. I sure as hell would now. And so somebody has the chance this weekend to do that at Combo Breaker.
Do you have anybody in mind? Who do you think? Who should we be looking out for that isn't at those other events?
I mean, Mochi's in this bracket. Glorian's in this bracket. Snake Eyes is starting to look like Snake Eyes. Oddly, not playing Zangief to look like Snake Eyes, but getting the results he used to have playing Zangief. Yukadon's here. So you're going to get high-level Nash in a year where that's starting to mean something again. There's a lot of good opportunities, honestly. And I'm not going to pretend I know who's going to be the come-up opportunity of the weekend. I don't. But somebody will.
Well, on another note, you mentioned the word Street Fighter a bunch of times, but obviously Combo Breaker is not just a Street Fighter tournament, it's a fighting game tournament. And there's a ton of other games, including notably, I think, the first super major Injustice 2 tournament. So how do you feel about getting to host that?
I'm so excited about that, man. I traveled the country playing Injustice 1. I love that series. It's a lot of what I like about NRS games, and it's a lot of what I like in NRS games kind of refined and perfected, particularly because I like holding back to block. And that game's fun so far. Like, the downside of New Job and Move and Combo Breaker prep is I haven't really got to put any time into it, but of the few hours I've got, the game plays nicely. And it's fun to watch. And nobody really knows what they're doing yet. And we have 300 plus people who don't really know what they're doing yet this weekend. And probably 10 or 15 of them have just figured out some stuff. So we get that great joy of kind of a release week tourney of watching just crazy shit happen for the first time. And I love that.
That's great to hear, obviously, and it's good to hear in an era where we're starting to get, more of these invitationals, more of these Street Fighter only events, Smash only events, stuff like that. What is it that has you deciding to do things this way? You have no spectator fee. Last year, my mom and dad showed up because obviously I'm from Chicago. They showed up to the tournament and watched it. My girlfriend showed up to the tournament and watched it. Tons of people, I'm sure, who would never, pay the $20 or $30 to get into a tournament, come and watch it, and you run like 30 games. Why do you do that?
I like fighting games, man. At the end of the day, there's very few games I've come across I don't like watching. There's even fewer that I don't like playing. And as I'm going to get together and play with people, at least when I got into the scene, I'd go to somebody's house and there was 5 or 6 games running. Everybody showed up to play Street Fighter 4 because 09er living, that's what you did. But you had Accent Core in the corner. There was somebody who had Power Stone set up at the first tournament I ever went to. And I like the camaraderie that comes out of that. I think there's a whole bunch of people that play fighting games competitively and they pick one game and they play it to death until they're great. I think there's a lot more people that play 5 or 6 games at an above average level and want to play competitively, but mostly just want to get together and play fighting games. And I think as a scene, we've kind of pushed harder and harder into always competitive, all the time, always esports, always, 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 always. And I think there's something to be said for go somewhere and play games because they're fun. Find out how good you are while having a good time. If you suck, have a lot of free time to get better, surrounded by other people that might be able to teach you something. Go home, hopefully feel more competitive, and then go play the competitive event. I don't think every event has to be the Super Bowl event. There's plenty of room for the Harlem Globetrotters, and I'm okay being that.
Now, Rick, you're talking about learn if you're good or bad or suck and have fun doing it. Some people get mad when they lose. If somebody chucks a controller at your event, how are you going to handle that?
We're going to kick him out of the event because if he chucks a controller and that goes flying through one of these rented screens, that gets expensive very quick. Plus, people underestimate the cost of liability insurance.
Now, you were talking, you invoked esports, and that's one of the things that I like to talk about. In particular, you're talking about the community feel of this event. Let's all have fun together. It is fun. Let's have fun. It doesn't all have to be about Super Bowl and competition and all that. But do you lament how crowded the field is kind of getting and how esportsification has taken over? I just wanted to throw that word in because I know people love it.
Well, I mean, it's a good word to throw out in this case. I don't lament it all because I think there's room for the whole spread. There's a reason you go to the gas station and there's 7 types of Skittles now. Esports can exist. Community events can exist. Events that are kind of somewhere in between can definitely exist. I mean, I'd be hard-pressed to argue that Combo Breaker's not in the middle, particularly with the leagues that we're plugged into and some of the pricing that we're allowed to give and the stage setups we try to do. But I don't think that field becomes problematic. We feel overcrowded right now because I think a lot of events aren't sure what they are, in the sense that they've been one thing and they're trying to be another, or they've become another thing and they're still trying to reach back to what they might have been. But as that all settles down over the next couple of years, I think we're going to get to a point where we have great esports events. We're going to have great community events. And I think what's really going to happen in the next 2 years is we're going to go back to having great local events. There was a big push for years. Everything needed to be a major, and then everything had to be a super major, and then everything had to be an international. At some point, it's really okay to just be the event the tri-state area drives to, because half the time, that's probably where you're going to have the most fun and learn the most stuff.
Well, on that topic, I kind of wonder what it's like, and obviously most of your biggest events so far have been in the age of esports. What has it been like working with some of these companies? And you don't have to name any names, but have there been any challenges working with, the NRS team or the Capcom team on having, the right commentators, on having the right things, on pleasing them in the ways that you need to?
I mean, yes, because that's the nature of it. Every publisher, every developer has an innate desire of what they want their product to look like, sound like, feel like. In the same way, they also have an understanding of how the community has grown, what the community wants. And there's an element of shaping a product into what it can be, and there's an element of letting that product grow into what it's supposed to become. And I think we're seeing that a lot this year. Capcom Pro Tour, for instance, I haven't seen anybody in a suit yet this year outside of Capcom Pro. So that's kind of reined back a little bit. Injustice seems to be partnering for their spread with some smaller events, or I guess smaller is not the right word, but events that weren't necessarily immediately propped up by the Capcom Pro Tour. And then we also have companies doing things like Red Bull Proving Grounds, where they're legitimately just going into cities and trying to build up local hubs and then going, within these cities, these guys are important. Let's bring them somewhere, make a big deal out of those guys competing, and see what happens and see what comes from there. And then you still have your Capcom Cups, and you still have Evo, and you still have now invitationals like Fighters Underground. I think overall we have a lot of companies exploring and experimenting, and long term that has to end well for all of us, even if there's a couple headaches here and there.
So all things considered, with the scheduling of the events, how do you feel about E-League?
I think E-League's great. Like, I've enjoyed watching E-League. I think
I almost believe you, Rick.
I think the bracket format was definitely something like I'm personally not a fan of, but we've gotten some good matches out of it. And I think it's good overall for the scene. Like, my dad turned on TV and watched E-League. My dad doesn't turn on the internet to watch Street Fighter. So there is an outreach element there that's not a bad thing. Like, I'm not worried about 8 pros not coming to Combo Breaker. I'm just not. We haven't had 8 pros come to Combo Breaker yet, so already this year's new and great in that regard. E-League's really important for kind of that stepping out point of what Street Fighter as an esport property can be, and I don't think that damages the community product that I'm putting together this weekend.
Does every major title need its own pro league?
No, but if every major title can figure out a way to do one without swallowing each other, I think it works just fine.
Yeah. Do you think
Like,
it helps or hurts, though? Because I feel like you can make the argument that the CPT structure was a shot in the arm. It did start to, break ground on something that hadn't really been seen, and potentially drive more people to tournaments, and therefore, make the events more successful in that regard. Is that fair to say?
Oh, I think it's completely fair to say. Street Fighter 4 got a bump from the Pro Tour. Street Fighter 5, I think, absolutely got a bump from the Pro Tour. I think Injustice is going to see a bump from the tour they've put together in the same way that MKX saw some sustainable online tournaments come out of ESL and some excitement around Fatal 8. Do I think that's necessary for the game? No. Do I think that there are probably other ways that you can achieve the same goal using those resources and infrastructure? Sure. Right now, is that style of tour probably the most effective thing in the FGC? Absolutely.
How do you feel about Killer Instinct right now?
I still like the game. I still play the game a lot. If you're looking at the game that I've sunk too much time into, it's still KI.
Yeah. All right.
And I think he's doing okay.
I think it's an exciting time. I think Injustice is a shot in the arm into the FGC in general because it just brings excitement. Whether the game has lasting power, usually NRS games, revert to their core NRS player audience. But right now, people are digging it and loving it.
Oh, that core audience is growing. So, I mean,
that's fair to say. I mean, it doesn't hurt when you put Batman and Superman in a game, right? Now,
no, it doesn't.
Who do you have this weekend on commentary duties?
If you go to combobreaker.org, we actually have a giant post listing out about 52 commentators for the weekend. So if you want to know who I have a commentator, you can go and look through that list. If you're trying to find somebody specific for a particular game, that's a lot easier than me trying to name everybody right now.
I guess I was trying to get you to tell me who's your favorite overarching commentator, whether it be Justice or Killer Instinct or Street Fighter 5. Is there anybody you could call out? They might be,
right the whole time.
Who do you got? Who'd you say?
Right now or all time?
Right now, yeah, like maybe somebody who might be in close proximity relative to this broadcast in and of itself.
I mean, you're fishing for compliments, but it's not you.
Not me, dog. I'm talking about your boy Sajam.
I was actually going to go for Sajam's prettier half, but Sajam's good too.
Sajam's all right? Now, but the real question is, who has a better beard? I think that's not really much of a question, but, let's hear you say it, bud.
Me? Versus Sajam?
Yeah, you versus
Sajam. In a beard contest?
Yeah.
I could win that in my sleep, like with the beard half shoved up in a pillow.
You're probably right, man. Didn't you guys have a beard off between you and Brandon Alexander, the organizer of Killer Instinct World Cup? Am I making that up? Did that happen?
No, that happened last year at CB. Saturday night at about 11 p.m. with everybody a little too hopped up. And, yeah, we had a beard off.
So, speaking of beard offs, we are going to bring on Sajam here in a little bit, and we're going to overlap with your interview and have him so you guys can say hi to each other, because I know you guys are friends. But before we get to that, I want you to talk to us a little bit about if you don't know what Combo Breaker is and you've never seen Combo Breaker, and you're watching the show, that's kind of a head scratcher because you probably should know what it is if you're watching the show. But for people who are going and people who are going to watch it on stream, what can they expect?
So Combo Breaker is the largest competitive fighting game convention in Illinois. We're going to feature 18 tournaments this weekend, including some marquee favorites like Street Fighter V and Injustice and Tekken 7 and Guilty Gear Xrd Rev 2. At the same event, we're also going to prominently feature Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Vampire Savior, Soul Calibur 2, as well as Capcom vs. SNK 2, to make sure that we're kind of reaching back a little. We have a wonderful arcade for everyone this year, put together by Paradise Arcade Shop, who for the first time are bringing out 20-plus cabs, including some pinball cabs and some sit-down candy cabs and some cocktail cabs from all kinds of games. So it's not even just fighting games you can play. We'll have a large format artist alley featuring almost 20 people. We've got a vendor floor with currently, I believe, 6 vendors, including Gaming Generations, Scepter Monitors, Paradise Arcade Shop, previously mentioned for the arcade, Controller Chaos. Combo Breaker has its own merch shop this year, so we've got a variety of things that people can pick up with my not entirely terrible logo on them. So please buy all of that. We have a panels room this year featuring a lineup that I'm actually really excited about.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? I know it's probably on combobreaker.org, but which panel are you most excited about?
The two I'm most excited about are Sonic Fox and Friends, because I think that might wind up ridiculous, because it's going to be Sonic and a variety of people from his current career as a player looking back at what he's accomplished, how he accomplished it, and what it took to get there. And then Saturday night, we actually have Evo Origins with Tom Cannon.
Oh, awesome. That's really cool. Dang. Really makes you wish you were there. You got to be there if you're in the area. You should definitely check that stuff out. If you weren't organizing the tournament, what would you be playing? Or doing at your own tournament?
I would be eating pizza, playing Too Much Killer Instinct. I would probably spend some time in the pool, because this will now be the 3rd year for Combo Breaker where I will most likely never get in the water. And probably side betting in the 3rd row with people too dumb to realize they shouldn't side bet with me.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit so that you're not on the camera, so we can bring on our other, bring on Sajam. So just chill there for a second while we add him to the call. You're not going to be there this year? I thought you always go.
I am going to be there this year.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually leaving tomorrow morning to go back to Chicago. I am from Chicago originally. My parents still live there.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be going for a couple of days just to see the city.
Yeah.
And then again. And then I will be driving westwards to St. Charles, where
Okay.
Combo Breaker is held, outside of Chicago, but still in the general region.
What are you competing in?
I will be entering Street Fighter V
Mm-hmm.
and King of Fighters 14.
And are you going to show up for Street Fighter V, or are you going to...
I will definitely show up. I don't believe there's a Hearthstone tournament at Combo Breaker. If anyone wants to money match or side bet, I'm more than willing. But I think I will just be entering Street Fighter V and King of Fighters 14.
I think we have both of them on, but we're going to wait a second because we lost Rick's cam. We got to have the Rick cam, but I see Sajam there. Or why don't we, there he is. We see him now. Gentlemen.
How's it going?
Hey, look at that. The Battle of the Beards.
It's not a battle.
But you do have swaggy hair.
My beard. No, I like trim my beard every day to be super short. I don't like growing it out much longer than this, because between this and between Rick, there's that phase, right, where it gets like kind of itchy and bushy, and that phase is rough. Like, it's not worth it.
That's my normal face.
Yeah.
I thought you guys were
like
trying to
that
go for the hot Ryu look or something like that.
No, definitely not. That's too much, man. Like, if you really were committed, I thought about it actually. I told Rip and Steve, because I consult with them fairly often. I was like, all right, look, do I grow out the hair or do I grow out the beard? And they really want me to grow out the beard, so I was kind of thinking about it.
Gentlemen, how did you two meet?
Oh, damn. I actually don't know. What was our first date?
I like how it actually looks like Rick is looking over at you in these windows here.
What direction is he from me? Is he this way?
He's your right.
Yeah, go to the other. Yeah, look the other way.
Oh, okay.
So he's that way?
Yeah, he's that way to you, Rick.
Nice.
This is good.
I don't know where I met Steve.
I actually think I know where I met him. It's one of two scenarios where I first met him and Kat. It was either at Evo, because I remember we had a conversation there about Combo Breaker, or it was the very first Combo Breaker. I went to that event, and I had a conversation with him in the front row where I was like, hey, you should let me commentate your event, and then he did.
Just like that. That's all it takes.
Yeah, it's basically I'm pretty straightforward.
I have no recollection of that actually happening.
Yeah, we were in like the front row watching something or other, and I was like, "You should let me commentate." And then I ended up doing KI that weekend, so that's what happened.
Sajam, are you at Combo Breaker this weekend, or are you too busy with E-League?
Of course. You think I would ever miss a combo breaker? I'll have you know what I did for my birthday 2 years ago? I turned 21. I was commentating online Wednesday night fights, and then the next day I had a 6 a.m. flight to combo breaker with the last pennies I had to my name so that I could go to it. It was because I went to UFGT the year before. It was the final UFGT, and I knew that I had to go back to combo breaker. So yeah. That was what I did. Actually, like Combo Breaker is always right after my birthday every year, so I have to go. It's like mandatory.
So you are flying from E-League to Combo Breaker then?
Yeah. So I don't know if a lot of people know this, but when I accepted when E-League first hit me up, they had the negotiation. They sent their Turner East fucking pro negotiator on the phone to me. He was like, "All right, we want you to do E-League and be on TV. How sick does that sound?" I respond with, well, I'm going to need to do community grassroots event in the middle. So can I still go to Combo Breaker was like the first question I asked when they asked me to do E-League. I was like, can I go to Combo Breaker? And can I go to all the FGC events in the middle of E-League? And he was like, I guess we can make that happen if you want to fly out Saturday mornings to all the tournaments. And I was like, sure, that's fine with me. So I fly into E-League Thursday, which is 2 days from now. I do E-League Friday night, and then Saturday morning I fly to Chicago.
Now you just need to say that again on TV, and Rick will cut you an extra check.
He'll cut. He doesn't have to cut me any checks. I owe Rick too much already. So yeah, he never has to cut me a check.
Well, Rick, before we let you go, is there anything you want to say to your bro, Sajam there?
Show up.
You better fucking
Dude,
show
I
up,
hope my
dog.
flight doesn't get delayed so bad. I'm gonna be real sad. But yeah, I should be a Combo Breaker.
Out of Atlanta.
Dude, we'll rent a car. Me, Steve, and Rip will rent a car and drive from Atlanta to Illinois. If they shut down the airport, we're driving, dude. I'll see you there Sunday.
Might be a little worse for wear, but he'll make it happen.
Image of the three of you with a blown out tire somewhere outside of Kentucky, and it's hilarious.
Dude, we'll make it happen. We'll walk. Steve will be like, all right, guys. And he'll just start running. Me and Rip will jump on his back. We'll make it. We're going to make it happen somehow. We'll be there.
Well, he does
If
usually
Steve
carry
starts
you
running,
anyway, right?
Rip can't catch you.
Dude, I'm jumping on his back. I'm going to hold on to his beads, and he's going to drag us. I'm going to just be dangling behind, and he's going to be... We'll just be held on. It's no problem. We'll be fine.
Rick, good luck. Break a leg this weekend. We're all looking forward to it. We're all rooting for you. It's going to be a great event. No blow-ups. No... What was the other one? No blow-ups. No... You said something, Rick, at the beginning of the show.
No on-stream ass slaps?
No ass. Well,
Wait, what?
You had to.
Definitely not.
You couldn't go. That was the one thing that Rick said. If you bring it up, he's gonna walk off the show. He waited until the very end. Rick,
Just-
That's
fire.
perfect.
Just bougie on out of here.
All right. Well, Rick, thank you very much for joining us. And again, Break a Leg. That'll be. Is that on the? At least the Street Fighter stream is on Capcom Fighters, right?
Street Fighter's on Capcom. Injustice is on NetherRealm. Most of main stage is on Team Spooky.
Awesome.
The rest of the stages are filled out by iPlay Winner, XSplit, and VG Bootcamp.
All right. Now we're gonna do that really cool trick where Danke and I talk for a little bit so that we can get these shots lined up. It's a little bit behind the curtains, letting you know how that we make the sausage around here. So you're really excited for Injustice 2?
It's everything I've ever looked forward to.
I think we're ready to go with Sajam. Hey, Sajam, welcome to the
Yeah.
show, man. I didn't give you a proper intro.
Hey, how's it going?
I can't believe we found you. I can't believe we were able to catch you. You're such a busy guy.
Dude, I don't think the people know. We've been trying. It's been 6 consecutive Tuesdays where you're in my DMs like, yo, man, are you going to be able to make it? I was like, all right, I'm flying in from, India that day. I'm going to fly to Atlanta for E-League the next day. There's a 2-hour gap in the middle. I'll run home, take my suitcase, dump it in the laundry, and then we'll do the show. But, we've never had time, so.
Well, that's pretty interesting because you said that 2 years ago you were basically peddling your services to Rick in the front row, and now
Yes.
you're one of the commentators. You're one of the few guys people think of when they think of a commentator. Are you just the best, or was this you going through the right channels? How did you get to where you are now for the people who are interested in doing such things?
All right, so if you want to become like me, the 19th best FGC commentator, you had to do a couple of things. So I think Steve and I, for a long time, most of last year, were the only full-time commentators, and I think we still almost are. I think there's only a few of us out there. But yeah, basically what happened is I started doing commentary at like Wednesday Night Fights and like offline locals like that. I did a little bit a couple years ago, and kind of the way it went is I just threw myself at everything. I was like, look, if you need someone to do 20 hours of Marvel 3 commentary and Dragon Ball Xenoverse and fucking Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm, like, I'll do it, right? Like, I was like, I'm willing to do whatever, right? So that's kind of how I got involved in things. Like, I was the one willing to just put in all the work when other people were like, oh, I don't feel like doing it, right? So, yeah, I mean, it sort of started there. And last year in April, Steve and I decided, like, all right, we're going to drop everything we're doing in our lives and risk going homeless so we could do fighting game commentary full time. And we were pretty close. I was almost, I might be out there on the street begging right now. We were pretty close, but yeah, it worked out.
There's somebody in the chat, I think I'm pronouncing this right, Chris Keg, saying, mention Hanzo Gonzo.
For the record, I also told you that Rick's name is Rick Thayer.
I know, dude. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Wrong name. I warned you. I gave you the right pronunciation and everything.
Well, you know, considering my first pronunciation was Tiher, at least I got a little closer to tire. I remembered it sounding like fire, but anyway.
Fire. Like your leg, you know, the thigh.
Yeah, got it. Thank you for that. Sajam, you're on E-League, and I want to talk a little bit more about that in a second. You're doing commentary. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. You're doing the recipe now for cross counters, which is, if you haven't seen it, it's...
What is it?
Well, if you're familiar with Excellent Adventures, I know Sajam is here, and he could probably answer
I was
that for
asking
us.
him.
I know. He's going to talk about it more at length. I'm going to tell the chat what it's about. It's like Excellent Adventures, except with a different duo.
Yeah, so for a long time, people have been asking Mike and Gutex, they're like, look, you guys need to play non-Street Fighter. Like, we want you to play Mortal Kombat and Injustice and Tekken and all these other games. And Mike and Gutex, they're busy folks, you know? So, like, they're like, that sounds like a lot of work. Learning another game sounds like a whole bunch of problems. So we came in and we did an Excellent Adventures. You guys remembered, we were the first guest in Season 2. So we came on and we did Excellent Adventures. And at the end of the episode, they kind of came up to us and they're like, hey, we want you guys to do an episode with just 2 of you guys, like us not on the couch. And so Steve and I, like, we're game, right? They're like, yeah, this is a brand new thing we're trying. So we're like, okay, like, we're cool with that. That sounds great, right? So we did it. And when we finished, they came up to us and they're like, that was the most ridiculous thing we've ever shot. And then they took us out to dinner and they're like, look, the reason we wanted you to do that is we want you to start a show on the channel where you guys play games that, you know, we can't. So they kind of hit us up and they approached us. And Steve and I have been trying to get involved and do something like that for a long time. And, like, why start our own, like, amazing mishaps of Sajam, whatever stupid name, you know, whatever we would come up with. Like, we would try to come up with some format to do the same kind of thing. And when they approached us with it, we were super game to do it. So we shot that a little while ago. We did 2 episodes of Guilty Gear, 2 episodes of Killer Instinct, and they're a lot of fun. You can get it right now over at crosscounter.tv. Use coupon code TastyJam. You can watch it full free. You can watch Excellent Adventures early, the reads, and the recipe. So go ahead and check it out.
You mentioned the reads, and I can't just let you float that out and talk about it. Tell me about the reads.
So the reads is hilarious. It's Bobby Scar and Toph, the kind of premier Melee commentators, if you guys have seen them before, doing exactly what we're doing, right? Melee is just now has net play. I don't know if you guys know this. This is a very interesting phenomenon. It's the reason I like watching the show, right? Because imagine if your favorite fighting game had never had online play until the year 2017. Just, like, consider that for a moment. Like, you never had the experience of playing online against an opponent in a fighting game until this year. So it's like the most amazing thing I've ever seen, because they're like, this guy's fucking lagging and I can't do anything, and, like, this is so stupid. And I'm just like, welcome, rookies. Like, now you guys understand, right? Like, it's like they're stepping into our world and now they, like, get what it feels like. So it's super hilarious to me. That show is amazing. I like both of those guys a lot. I've watched a ton of their commentary when I was trying to learn how to commentate certain games. Like, I was studying other games commentary, and I think those guys are fantastic. So yeah, definitely check out their show. It's hilarious.
So I've heard a secret about you, which is that you're actually pretty good at a lot of the games you commentate. You know, you're a good KI player. You know how to play SF5. You know how to do all that. Well, why do you not enter tournaments? Time? Is it just time? Would anything lead you to enter a tournament? What is it that makes you not interested?
So, okay, this is an interesting question. I think there's a lot of reasons. Before I was ever a commentator, I was a player, obviously, like most of us are. And I was sponsored for a little bit, and I traveled for a little bit playing some games. I had a different name back then, but
What was
yeah,
it?
like I was,
What was the name?
I went by FRQ Steve instead of Sajam, because my tag was still Sajam, but like I needed something. And Mike Watson at Super Arcade was like, "What's your name?" And I was like, "Steve." And then he was like, "Well, your name's gonna be Steve on the bracket, but we can't just make it Steve. Like, you need hella E's at the end of it. How many E's should we put?" And I said, "Mike, it's up to you." So he put like 5 E's at the end. So my name became Steve with like 5 E's. That's literally how this happened. And then yeah, that all happened. So yeah, I was traveling around. I was playing a lot, and I kind of realized, like, I kind of came to this conclusion that like there's so many amazing players out there, and I'm just whatever, right? Like I can play a little bit, but of all the amazing players out there, there's not that many people who are commentating. And I kind of was watching commentary one day, and I thought to myself, like why can't I represent the community, right? Like if people want to do commentary for this, and a lot of people were upset. I don't even remember who was commentating, to be honest, but it was a game that I really liked. I think it was Killer Instinct commentary, and I thought to myself like, if those bitter stream monsters that are like, this commentary is whack, I hate these guys suck. Instead of being that guy, I thought to myself, why don't I try to do a better job? And so that's what I did.
And it's led you to a lot of places. It's opened some doors for you. Anybody
Yeah.
who says that you didn't deserve it or earn it doesn't know what you put into it. I want to say was it Absolute Battle or Texas Showdown or something that you and Steve. I was talking to Steve. I'm sorry, the other Steve. Sorry, Tasty Steve, and he was telling
Yeah.
me that y'all were. Oh, this was right before you guys joined the
Ultra Gen.
Ultra Gen, exactly.
Yeah.
And you guys are saying we're gonna do it. It's gonna be full time, that kind of thing. That to me is like a scary fucking thing to even consider doing, unless you're prepared as fuck and have put in the time and are equipped to do it. How do you feel about that?
Texas Showdown. That's funny because it was at Texas Showdown. I remember exactly what you're talking about because Steve and I basically, like a week before at West Coast Warzone, we were kind of talking about it, and I was kind of deciding whether I wanted to, like, I was in a weird place and Steve was in a weird place. Like, he has his full 9 to 5, and he can't keep taking time off. And we're getting asked to do all these commentary events. I'm deciding if I want to take another semester of college or like take one off to try this. So we're both like, what do we do, right? It was one of those moments. And basically, we had a conversation with a few people. Rick was one of them. Seg was one of them. And Mike Ross was the last one. And Mike basically looked at us and he was like, look, like, somebody has to do this. Somebody has to be the martyr and do this. Like, are you guys going to do it or are you going to let somebody else do it? And, like, you're going to sit there and do whatever you're doing and think to yourself, like, why didn't we try it? So Steve and I kind of heard that advice and we're like, all right, let's try it. So he put in his 2 weeks. I decided not to go to the next semester of college. And then after that, literally at Texas Showdown, right, we were like, all right, we got this Wizard World Tour happening. We got all these events planned. Everything is looking good. We get a phone call, and it's like, all right, Wizard World is canceled. We're like, oh, my God, what the hell? Dude, we're literally sitting in the hotel room for like 5 hours. And Steve and I are like lying in bed, staring at the ceiling in the dark, talking to each other, and we're like, dude, we're going to be homeless. Like, what are we going to do?
Were you
like, I had
cursing
enough
Mike
money.
Ross at that moment?
Yeah, I was like, Mike, you son of a... Like, I was so angry because I was basically... It was like, we had enough money. I had enough money that I was going to live from April until EVO. Comfortably. I was like, all right, I have enough money. It's not a long time, but that was like my cutoff. And if it didn't work by then, I was going to go back to school and working. So, like, it was basically that kind of like, all right, we have to make it work. Like, we have from here to here. And, like, let's see what happens. At literally a weekend, we get a phone call. It's like, yeah, Wizard World's canceled. This is canceled. You guys aren't doing this anymore. Later. And we're just like, oh, my God. And, it turned out Wizard World didn't get canceled. So that was pretty good. And then everything else kind of fell into place. And, yeah, now we're doing this.
Now, I've been to one of those Wizard Worlds that y'all are at. And for the most part, yeah, you're doing video game or fighting game commentary, but you're also, like, dicking around playing random-ass games. It doesn't look like you should be collecting a paycheck for that, is what I'm getting at. You guys look like you're having too much fun on it.
We're having a blast, but that's what we do with everything, right? That's kind of how we are. Well, you were actually a guest. You played games with us, and you came up. You were in a certain condition. You were motivated, and you came up to the stage, and we'd said, all right, no matter what happens, don't curse, because that was the one thing.
Oh, yeah.
It told us whatever happens, and you, Efren, you looked at us and you said, me, cursing. I run a show. I will work with Daily Dot. I know what I'm doing. I'm a pro. And so we're like, all right, man, it's not going to be a big deal, right? So we're thinking to ourselves, all right, Efren's a pro. We get up on stage. We're playing. Like, what happens? Efren tries to jump somewhere. We're playing some platformer. Efren tries to jump somewhere. He drops it. He's like, fuck. And I was like, Efren, you're like the only person to ever curse on that couch. Like, we were like, what? And then Efren's face, like, immediately was like, boo. It, like, shut down. It was like you deactivated him. He was like,
Sorry about that,
Oh,
guys.
God.
Sorry about that, Wizard World. Sorry about that, Chris Egg. Sorry about that, you gentlemen who were being such gracious hosts. Sorry about that in general.
hilarious.
It's pretty. I think we did want you so on this show in part because a lot of times you are connected to Steve, which is great, I assume. How did you two become a partnership?
Wow, it sounds like we're getting married when you say it like that.
Yeah.
But
A
Tell us
commentary
about your
partnership.
your first date. Now, how did y'all come together?
all right, so here's what happened. I don't know. For a long time, Rip and I were doing commentary at Wednesday Night Fights together, and we did the Wednesday Night Fights online stuff in Valle's like studio. It was like 100 degrees. There was no air conditioning. Like we were doing those Wednesday Night Fights online. We were chugging, and Valle told us when Wednesday Night Fights comes offline, you guys will be doing it, right? So we're like, all right, that sounds awesome. So we do offline Wednesday Night Fights. It's going great. Tasty Steve shows up one night, and him and I kind of mutually knew each other. And basically, he was like, yeah, I want to hop on commentary. So we said, sure, hop on commentary. So him and I did like one block of commentary for like 3 hours together. And it was crazy. Like, I couldn't believe it just worked, Like, him and I just
Chemistry
worked.
was through the
like,
roof, is what you're telling me?
yeah, it was the chemistry, just like love at first sight. You know what I'm saying? Like it was like immediate, like boom, it just worked. It was Steve and Steve, the names, all this stuff came out, and like after that, he said like he really wanted to do it, and I told Vi like you should bring on Steve so me, Rip, and Steve can rotate and do commentary together. And Vi was like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. So Steve started coming to Wednesday Night Fights every week, and then we officially got a name. I came up with Tasty Jam one time when I was dropping him off somewhere. And I'll never forget, you know how excitable Steve is, right? So I said it. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What about Tasty Jam? And he was like leaving my car. And he was so excited. He like slammed the door and was like, and just started like running up and down the street. And I was like, oh my God, he's going to get himself killed. Like I was like so concerned. But yeah, we came up with the name. And then after that, that was basically the end of it.
The rest is history. And now all three of you are on E-League, and it's all thanks to Valle, is what you're telling me.
It's all thanks to a lot of people. I think Vi, of course, for giving us a chance to do it. Seg, and especially Rick. I think almost nobody goes up to bat for me, Steve, and Rip more than Rick. That guy, I'd definitely be homeless if it wasn't for Rick. That guy is out there fighting in the streets for me. He's like, if you don't hire this man, look at his hair. Hire this man immediately. I'm just like, all right. So I have to thank him and Seg, Vi, all of them super key. Wizard World, because I think a lot of people probably wouldn't have seen us if we didn't do Wizard World. We're doing Wizard World in 2 weeks for Tekken launch. I'm doing Tekken commentary. It's going to be great.
Are you a Tekken head?
Of course.
All right.
Well, one thing I'm interested in is that, from what I understand, a lot of your background was in these NRS games. Are you excited to commentate Injustice? Is this like a thing that you're excited to do?
Excited is not. You need to kick it up a notch. Like it's like next level. Like it's
I
crazy.
hate Injustice, so I'm wondering from you.
All right, so it's good to know that you're a moron. So here's the deal. Like I started on Injustice. That's like the thing that got me out. Before Injustice came out in 2013, I was like a stream monster. I was just watching, right? And I was playing a little bit, but I was really busy with everything going on. In 2013, I had some more time to play, so I started playing Hella Injustice. I was like, this game is sick. I couldn't believe how much I liked it, right? Just because it was just so, like, it was such a fun change of pace from everything else I was playing at the time. So I was super excited to play it, and I started entering tournaments. I started doing commentary. That was, like, the start for me. A lot of people think about me as a Street Fighter guy. Like, me and Steve and Rip, right? Or like Street Fighter commentators, but Steve and I and Rip have all really only done Street Fighter for about 1 year. Mm-hmm. I've done like 3 years of NRS commentary, like Injustice and MKX and Killer Instinct, right? Those are the games that I've been doing for forever. But the three of us somehow stumbled onto the E-League set. They're like, yeah, you guys are Street Fighter commentators, right? We're like, yeah, we know what we're doing. We're Street Fighter pros. But yeah, like to me, I am so excited for Injustice. It's the game that got me started, like competing, commentating, making a lot of videos on the internet and stuff like that, doing tech videos and tutorials. So I can't believe it. Like literally, I've labbed every character in the game, and I've been playing a bunch. I've been watching a bunch. Like I'm up at E-League, like looking at the bracket for the next day, and then like also I'm watching Sonic Fox stream or Scar, like all these sets and stuff. Like I'm losing it. I can't believe how happy I am for the game.
Sajam, what should I do with Swamp Thing, man?
What do you mean? First of all, don't fight against a Deadshot player. Just like whatever you do, don't fight because you're gonna get shot all day. But he has huge half-screen limbs. He's got the command throw. He's got good tip
Okay,
throws.
what should I
and
do with
pressure.
Swamp Thing when they're like Batman all up in on me doing like full pressure?
Yeah, so your reversal, your like defensive tools are really not that great for the most part. But you do have the anti-air like thing where he shoots the leaves out. That's pretty decent. Yeah, but. Yeah, that range is really not his specialty. I think that character is really good against certain archetypes, but 90% of Injustice is zoning characters, which is good against... Like, if the game was all characters without projectiles, Swamp Thing would be, like, top tier. He'd be super top tier, but, yeah, everybody's just like, psh, or like, bang, bang. Yeah.
I want to stay on the topic of Injustice, but there's a very important breaking news, courtesy of Steve Ace King Offsuit Jurek.
I heard about
CFN update. May 30. God, how excited are you guys?
Well, now I owe someone a copy of King of Fighters.
That's right.
that just happened.
That was the worst bet ever.
That was
They
great.
waited.
You know that. You know how Combo Fiend is, right? He was sitting there. He was like, "This dummy," and he just like immediately was like, "Announce it right now. Drop it." Like he's gonna owe somebody a copy of KOF. How funny would that be?
Well, now you're on the hook, pal. That's good.
Well, I'm glad May
Yeah, well,
30th is right after Combo Breaker, so
Combo
at least
Breaker.
you have time before the next tournament.
It's
How
right after Combo Breaker and E-League and Red Bull.
So when does E-League end totally?
Friday. Friday's the
Oh,
end.
that's the last?
that's
Okay,
mine.
so everything's going on Friday.
Remember how we made brackets and we
Yeah,
talked
you
about
guys
it
had
earlier?
your brackets. All of it is on Friday, so it starts at like 5 p.m. Eastern is when I think it is, and then the whole thing plays out that night. I also made a bracket, and my bracket is very similar to you guys. I have Punk winning, and like I have Fudo second, Phenom third.
Wow.
So how do you, as a commentator, have you read these patch notes? Are you ready for when the patch drops to start saying different things than you're saying today? What's your, and especially, being an NRS commentator, how important is it to keep up with patch notes?
Yeah, I mean, so I come from a different era, you know what I mean? Like, or a different era in gaming. When I was growing up, all the games I played were frequently patched.
Right.
So to me, learning and studying patch notes is like super and I feel like I adjust the patch notes instantly. Like if my character has a new move that changes this or this, like I feel like I adjust to it instantly because I'm so used to playing NRS games and KI, which have such frequent patching. So it's really easy for me. Like when Season 2 came out of Street Fighter, I was like, boom, I know all of this was like instantly downloaded into the brain, right? It was one of those things where the adjustments were really easy to do. So yeah, for me, I read the patch notes and I was super like excited about the patch to drop 2 months ago. And then like nothing ever happened. 92 pages. I had it in my back pocket. It was no problem, right? I was chilling, but yeah, I have to uncrumple the notes, but I take tons of notes about commentary. I watch every single tournament that happens. I always catch up on the archives. I always watch trying to learn. I don't passively watch, right? I always watch and take notes and like try to do my own analysis on the side while doing it. So it's one of those things where, yeah, I really try to pay attention and keep up with everything. But it just takes that kind of mindset, right? You have to be open to change, and you can't be upset about the changes. You just have to acknowledge that they exist and kind of go with the flow. That's how I feel about it.
How much time would you say in an average day or week do you spend talking, thinking, playing fighting games?
Dang, that's a lot. To be honest with you, my basic day is like wake up, grab coffee, watch fighting games until late afternoon, and then eat dinner and then relax after. So majority of every single day, because I follow so many games, right? So like you might have seen, I stream match analysis a lot of times, and so that was basically, I did that anyway. I watched footage anyway. So yeah, basically I'd say unless I'm out doing some kind of peacekeeping mission here in SoCal, I am watching fighting games for maybe 6 to 8 hours a day at least. Like I'm watching or thinking or studying or playing super often. And that's what it takes to keep up with all the different games happening. And I think that I could probably be doing even more. But man, I'll tell you this, like the one thing about Steve and I is like he is basically Batman and I'm Nightwing, if you guys are familiar with DC at all. Because here's what happens. Like we show up back, right? We get home and HyperX hits us up and they're like, yeah, we love you guys to come down. We want to talk to you guys about some cool events we want to do. We want this to happen, this to happen. And I say, sure, HyperX, I'll see you there. So I roll up to the HyperX Batcave. I say what's good. I talk to them. I do all the peacekeeping, and then Steve's at home sleeping. He's not doing anything. I'm doing all the work. Like, I'm out here negotiating the deals, being the manager, making sure everything's cool, everything's going great. And then, like, when it's time for the event to come up, Steve shows up, right? I got the Joker on the ropes. I'm Nightwing. I'm beating him with the staff. And then Steve kicks into the room, and he throws a batarang at Joker's head and knocks him out. And everybody's like, oh, Batman. It's like, what? I just did all that. And then Steve is just like, he always gets credit. So, yeah, when we're at home, I'm working hard to make sure that I'm keeping up to date with everything and keeping Gotham safe, But
we should have Steve end the show. Just like bust.
Yeah, that would be so fitting. Like, he just is too good. Like, everything that I'm good at in the world, like, Steve is amazing at the opposite. Like, we counterbalance, So that's how he is. He just shows up and he's so charismatic. Everybody loves him, and I'm just like, all right, that's
so I have two somewhat broad questions. Still staying on Injustice. What do you expect to see at Combo Breaker?
Sonic Fox is gonna win.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. Like, to me, he looks stronger than most of the people I've seen play the game. I think 3 out of 5 helps him a lot, and he's not afraid to play strong characters, which I think other people are kind of like. I've always been a Poison Ivy fan. I'm such a big fan. I'm definitely playing Poison Ivy. And Sonic Fox is like, what? I'm going to just shoot you. Like, I don't care about who you think is cool. Like, he said when the game came out, I'm going to play Captain Cold. I'm going to play Darkseid. I'm going to play X character. The game came out, and he was playing Black Adam and Deadshot and, like, some other character. I'm like, all right, Sonic, you do you. So I think that he'll be really strong. I expect Dragon to do really good with Poison Ivy. That kid works harder than almost anybody in the scene. Scar looks pretty good with his
Supergirl.
Yeah, he's been playing Supergirl. He has another character too. I was trying to think of who it is, but it's a secret character. And then Pig, I expect Pig to do pretty well if he's there. But I expect the tournament to be sick. I think that there will be a lot less zoning than you probably expect, although there will be a lot of zoning. And I'm looking forward to it. I don't think I'm commentating it. I'm pretty sure I'm just doing Street Fighter at Combo Breaker and KI probably. So I'll just be in spectator mode, and I'll be in the front row taking all my notes. Yeah, I'll be in the back cave typing everything in, filling in all the data. It's going to be good.
You doing Steve's homework?
Definitely. That guy shows up and he's like, oh my God, he hit him with the combo, did this, off the wall, so much damage. And I'm just like, why did I even learn the game? Like, he just did it for me. I'm like, all right, Steve, you just tell him how it's going,
That
Steve.
was a pretty dang good impression.
Yeah, that was bad.
Commentate. And Steve could commentate anything.
Now, let's bring it back to the event that'll hit us before Combo Breaker, which is E-League. This has been quite a production from beginning to end. You've been there through the majority of it. It was interesting that at the beginning of it, it was a little bit, not rocky, but the format was a little weird, and then they listened and they changed it. Tell me about what it's been like being on that production for this amount of time. What have you learned?
Yeah, I mean, so I think that going into it, nobody knew what to expect. First of all, I didn't know what to expect, right? Like, I was really kind of weird about it. I was like, I don't know how this is going to be. I don't think any of us were prepared. We'd seen, like, obviously we did our homework. So we all studied what CSGO was like and what their Overwatch was like. And kind of like, we all did our background stuff and kind of, maybe not Steve, he just showed up and killed it. But the rest of us did our homework and we're like, man, like, let's see what this is like. So we didn't really know what to expect, but they're true professionals over there. It's
Right.
crazy how good those guys are at their jobs, and they're very open to listening to our advice. So stuff like, the first couple of days, the bracket or the show format was kind of slow, right? It was one match on, one match off, one match on, one match off. So we told them from the very first production meeting, like, we're like, look, it needs to be more than this. Like, we need 4 matches, right? We need at least 3 or something. Like, give us some more matches. And they're like, do you guys really think it'll be that bad? And we're like, yes. And they're like, all right, how about this? We'll try like 1 day or 2 days or whatever, and then we'll see what happens. And they saw what it was like, and they're like, you guys are totally right. Like, let's change the format a little bit. So from the start, they've been very willing to listen to the advice that we give them and kind of hear our counsel. And they take excellent care of us, which is awesome. So to me, it's one of those things that honestly, I think that when we first showed up, a lot of people were like, oh, E-League is making them be all sterile. They're making them, they're holding back and like they're afraid to say anything. I really think it was us kind of getting used to the whole flow of the show because it was so rigid and structured. If you guys have ever been to a fighting game event, they sit us down and they're like, all right, commentate. And we're like, all right, well, we got 2 hours to chill. We're hanging out. Like, it's like, I have no idea who's going to play next. All I know is the bracket and who's in what pool, I think. And like, it's like real loose. But in E-League, it's very much like, all right, come into this. Like, you bump in, there's a video at the start. Introduce this, talk about this match, go to this, show this Twitter thing, do that. It's like so like boom, boom, boom. You got to hit everything, and we have like somebody in our ear talking to us, and so it's like a little different, right? Not all of us have experience with that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna take the blame on our side for it being a little weird at first. I don't think it was their fault.
You just made me remember that bullshit article on Kotaku about it, saying that you guys were like timid or I can't remember what it was, but I was like, oh, this is the dumbest thing I've ever read.
It was.
How'd you feel when you read that article? I wish I could pull it up. I'm not gonna.
So I feel like I'm pretty good. I have a pretty good filter on Twitter. I don't know if you ever read my Twitter before, and you ever talked to me in person. It's like night and day, right? On Twitter, I'm like, hey everybody, let's be friends, right? And like I read that and I tweeted immediately, and I was like, this article is so stupid. Like I don't know who wrote it. You and I are gonna have fisticuffs. Like this is crazy. I couldn't believe it. But you know, it's one of those things that like you just gotta roll with it, right? Like it's like, all right, like I'm used to reading a stream chat full of however many people talking trash. So one article it's not the end of the world, right? You're just kind of like, all right, well, they'll write what they write, and you know it is what it is. Like whoever, like it's written like someone who is a fighting game professional, like they know everything there is to know about fighting games. But when you read it, like it's clearly obvious if you know what you're talking about that it's like, all right, come on, you don't know what's going on here. So, I mean, I get what they try to do. It's I don't have any hatred for the person who wrote it. I think I've read some of the other work that the person, because you know how I am, I did my research. I read some of the other work that the person did, and I thought they did a good job. So it's one of those things where I'm like, all right, well, you know, you missed once, it's fine. Like I'm not too mad about it. Like I mean, I obviously don't think there was. I was like, all right, well, whatever the case may be, I'm not too concerned about it. But yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of fun with D-League so far, to be honest with you.
It's been great. It's been enjoyable. You know, I really like the production value. I like when they do the little mini docs, little mini stories or packages that they roll in. They're so great.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you this. You know, there was one time where Richard got sick. I don't know if anybody saw this a couple of weeks ago with Group C. Richard Lewis's eye, he can't see out of it. For like the last like 2 months, he literally can't. It's like, yeah, you could just, it's not there. So it like swole and it was really bad. So they had me host the desk. I don't know if you guys are seeing that. And like, I have to give some credit to you guys because at Capcom Cup we did a little show. You guys might have remembered if you watched Top 8, we did a pre-show and a halftime show, and I worked with you two in making that thing happen. And so I had some experience on the desk to do it. So I have to give some credit to you two both on the Best of 5 show for preparing me to host national televised desk in front of everybody and do that whole thing. So thanks to you guys. You guys did
and not to blow smoke up your ass, but then just as now, I feel like you were ready. You were equipped for it. You have the right temperament and personality and you know, performance there. So shout outs to you, dog. We're glad that we can be a footnote, but you did the work yourself.
Let's go.
Now, back to E-League. I have a theory that if Rick Fox picks up a player for a game, there's going to be an E-League series on it. Will you be back for Injustice E-League?
If they do an Injustice E-League, I'm gonna fly to Atlanta and beg on the Turner doorstep that I can get involved somehow. Like I'm just like, please do an E-League. I mean, he has Sonic Fox on the team. Maybe they're doing a Skullgirls E-League. You never know. I'm gonna show up and be like, I played what's that character's name? Whatever has the umbrella. Parasol. That was Parasol, my character. Yeah. That character was so sick. I played Parasol and Philia. I'm like, please. Put your boy on there because, man, if they do Injustice, I'm going to absolutely lose it. That would be so sick. But, I mean, I honestly want to work with those guys in any capacity. I think that they do an amazing job. And, yeah, I would love to. I mean, especially because, to be honest with you, like, as much as I love to do all these different events, like, I feel like as long as I can do E-League in the way that we did this time, where I get to hit grassroots events, I would always like to do E-League. Because that's the thing that I like the most about it is that we kind of explain to them, like, look, as awesome as TBS and TV is, we don't really care that much. Like, we want to do Twitch shows that are grassroots and that we care about. So, like, we want to do that too, right? And they're really understanding about that. So, yeah, I hope that we get to continue working for them. And I hope that they like fighting games. I mean, you know, it's one of those things where you got to decide if it's worth it, so.
So we're going to see you this weekend at Combo Breaker. We're going to see you this weekend on E-League. Yes. We're not going to see you at Red Bull Kumite, but I'm sure you'll see some of it. After E-League is over, after Combo Breaker is over, where will we see you before we let you go?
So this is our 11th straight week of travel, or 12th straight week of travel to events. So you've probably seen us around a little bit. The following week, we are doing the Wizard World launch event for Tekken 7. They're hosting a big Tekken tournament. It's from Thursday to Monday. So they're going to have Tekken there. Big pop bonus. It's going to be sick. Lots of people attending. So I'll be there doing Tekken. Then next week after that, I think there's nothing for us. But then it's CEO, and I'll be at EVO. And those are like the next tournaments I can think coming up as far as that goes. But yeah, I pretty much travel every week. And if I'm not traveling, I'm streaming. And I'm doing something related to fighting games, so just keep your peepers open, and you'll probably see me.
What I want to see is the rematch between you and Eris, Deadshot versus Superman.
I beat him 4 times in ranked rare, 5 times or 6 or something like that. Nobody knows how to stop him. I don't know. I played Injustice 1. I remember Deadshot or Deathstroke shooting the guns, doing the low guns, the air guns. That character was way better than Deadshot. I'm just looking forward to 3 him to death. It's not a big deal.
Well, Sajam, that brings us to the end of the interview on Best of 5. I'm glad we finally got you on here. Is there any parting words you got before we let you go?
Thank you so much for having me. I wanted to be on here for so long because I felt I owe you guys after you guys killed it at Capcom Cup and producing the show. I was like, look, I owe them a favor. I got to come on the show and tell them how amazing they are. Tell Danke his hair is almost as good as mine. Efren, his 28-year-old self looking beautiful on the show.
28.
It's just it's a pleasure to be here.
Took some years off of me, dog.
You guys have like the best now, especially now that Capcom Pro Talk is gone. It's somewhere buried in the Twitch studio. You guys do one of the absolute best fighting game shows. One of the most entertaining shows. I try to tune in every week or catch the archive if I don't see it live. Yeah, you guys are amazing. Thanks so much for doing what you guys do. Keep it up. Ace King Offsuit does an amazing job. Velociraptor and I have known each other for like 17 years now. He's the coolest dude ever. He's a great host whenever I'm in Arizona, so all you guys are amazing.
All right, you've said enough, Steve. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. We'll have you on anytime, and if you're in Austin, you should swing by the studio. So thanks, man, for being on the show.
That would be sick. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, guys. So now we're ready for the Injustice set. So go ahead and grab the stick and... No,
I'm glad we got to have Steve on.
Yeah.
The first time I met Steve, I was like, this dude's like a better version of me. He kind of looks like me. He's a year younger than me. He does all the commentary. But then when I got to work with him on Capcom Cup, because I helped write a lot of the segment that he did, I was like, oh, wow, he actually totally knows how to play the game, like probably just as well as I do. He probably doesn't need me at all. There we go. No, but I mean, he's seriously,
it was fun to work with him. Yeah, he's a
like,
pro.
if you see him and you're like, oh, he's a commentator, like, no, he like lives and breathes fighting games. I can tell very personally as someone who lives and breathes fighting games. So really good to have him on the show.
And just for the record, I'm 32 years old. Not that anybody was asking. Shout out to Sajam. The dude's the best. I really like that guy. You can catch him also on Ultra Chen. David Chen and Ultra David are doing that, and Tasty Steve is on there as well. So check them out. If I'm not mistaken, they do the show this.
And I will never play an Injustice 2 chat, probably ever. I still, despite being a moron, per Sajam's words, no.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you for watching. Chat, if you like what you're watching, please hit us with a follow so we can get enough follows to maybe someday get a sub button. And on that day, I'll hope that you'll be generous to hit us with a sub. This has been Best of 5. I'm Efren. That's Mike. Earlier on the show, we had John and Steve. Thank you, guys. See you next week.